Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here. And as people start and continue to trickle in, I just wanted to do something a little bit fun to begin this session today. And that is, I want to share a bit of a cheeky motherhood moment. Now, for me, if you want to share yours in the chat, and I will read some of them out. And if you're feeling tired and exhausted, just pop in some emojis on how motherhood feels. I don't want to add any extra burden to a already busy or exhausted mama. But if you have a funny story, please share. I'll share mine. So when my kids were little, when I had Mabel, my third child, the other two were still 3 and under. So it was a bit of a crazy patch. And I remember when we'd go to the park sometimes, I would if it was, had to get home quickly and I just didn't have time for that last play type vibe, I would look up at the clouds. And if there was any clouds, and especially if there was a teeny little bit of gray, I would be like, guys, a storm is coming. We've got to get to the car. And I didn't use it too often. It didn't lose its power, but I would be able to get them to, race to the car really quickly, bikes in the back, strap everyone in, put the baby in, and we'd be off on our way. And it was sometimes just such a good thing not to have to go through the whole debacle of someone being sad to leave the park, or it just seemed to be a really motivating factor. Using that bit of poetical license. And sometimes they'd be like, Mum, the storm hasn't come yet. And I'd be like, oh, maybe it's blown over, or, whatever. But it was just a little bit of sanity doing something like that. So do you guys have any funny little stories that you could use to that you use with your children that's a little bit cheeky, but it helps you just, keep your sanity? We're just sharing how motherhood feels, or a little maybe cheeky story that we might use in our motherhood. And I'll just pop the chat up there so we can have a look at those.
I love your park story, Gnomes. I think we definitely do something similar, whether it's making it a race to get to the car, if you've got someone competitive, that kind of usually mostly always works for us.
Yes.
And or just making a little game out of things tends to help, get Little Miss into the bath or, into the car or whatever it is we're trying to achieve. That has helped us.
I love it. Yes, you've got to have some ways. Renee says, saying that ice cream bands music means they're out of ice cream. I love it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really want to make sure that we use excellent use of this beautiful hour that we have. We often don't have a lot of time to ourselves, so I just really want to use that beautifully. Now, I'm not sure, there's a lot of different ways that you might have made your way to this mama-mojo masterclass. And so if you haven't heard about mama-mojo before, then I just wanted to share a little bit about how the name came about. So mojo means wanting more, or very much. And I just don't know anyone who wants more out of life than us mamas. More time to ourselves, more connection with those we love, more like easy go-to dinners to put on the table night after night after night, a more organized home, and also more self-care built into our days, our lives, and our weeks. And so I just thought matching those two together, Mucho and Mama, just seems so beautiful. And one of the things that I love to do as a habit coach and the founder of Mucho Mama is to help people bridge that gap from like the dream life that they have up on the shelf, thinking like, I just can't do that, I'm going to wait for a different season, to them actually living it out. And so because that is my passion for taking people from that journey and realizing they can actually start to welcome and move towards the joy-filled life that they were created for. And that's sometimes what we think is the dream life, that's far off and unattainable. But we can move there gently and slowly and sustainably. And so that's what I love to do. And so what I want to do, if you have been able to have your little printable, here is mine. On the first page, you'll notice that it has like a little section here where you can score yourself. We'll go through that in a moment, and then a little part at the end where I'll talk us through that. But I've also included on the back side of that a little bliss ball recipe. And the reason I popped that in there is because it's one of my kids' favorites. It's super quick and easy. And what I love about it is that it takes once I make up the mix, I put it into 4 even bowls for my children, and then they roll their own bliss balls. And that is like the best mum hack ever, because that's the least fun part of making bliss balls. And so they think it's fun. I put coconut in another bowl if they like it. and they roll them and then roll them in the coconut, and they think making them is just as much fun as eating them, and you get like 5 minutes to yourself. So that recipe is really delicious, and I hope you really love it. What we're going to do now is go through those beautiful pillars, and that's what the like little things that are listed there on the side. Now, if you have not printed it out, please simply grab a piece of paper and a pen, and you can get as just as much. Hi, Kaylee, how are you? Thank you for being here.
Hello.
You can get as much out with just a pen and paper. So by no means do you need to have the printable if you haven't got a chance to do that. I'm always about like grace and making everything easy for mums. And so if something's not feeling easy, then just we take a different direction. So yeah, just have a pen and paper, and you can get the same benefit with that. What I want to do first, though, before we go through and start giving a value to each of the pillars, I want us to just take a moment, take a beautiful deep breath in. We've, all got some time to ourselves. That's rare in our life. So take a beautiful deep breath in. And I also want us to take 1 minute and just to write down how motherhood feels, because this is going to be one of the things that will help us get clarity on where we want to move to. So don't overcomplicate it. There's no right and wrong answers. Just write down motherhood feels to you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and start, I love yours, Estelle, trying to make them believe that sugar-free chocolate is the real thing. I know. Isn't it sad though with your, like sometimes with your first child, you can get them so far without like tasting certain things. Yeah, so I love that one, Estelle. So when we're like looking at these, and I'm going to share mine with you, and if you want to share yours in a comment in chat, you can put a dash between them or a full stop or whatever, to share your 3 words. Mine came up were busy, too much, and purpose-filled. And so what you'll find is as we go through this session, those words will be really meaningful and powerful for the change that you will need to lean into, and what's needing change now. So yeah, if you feel brave and want to share those, I'd love to see yours, and don't feel like there's anything, if like your motherhood might just be all like in a really beautiful season and you've got all 3 amazing words. So don't feel like it has to feel overwhelming or exhausting if you're in a season where it's not that way. D has fulfilling, exhausting, and challenging. Yes, I love the fulfilling part, and there's often a little element where there's one word that describes the beautiful part of your motherhood, and yeah, then the other parts that are describing the things you're struggling with. Overwhelming, Tebs, busy, and a privilege. I love that. That's so beautiful. I always find these words so powerful. Sometimes I get a little bit teary when I read them, because like every mother identifies with what those words mean, and they know what season you're walking through. Renee has fun, exhausting, rewarding. Kaylee, beautiful, blessed, and overwhelming. So we have all these words coming through, and I'll pop back there and share if anyone else pops them in. But what I want to move on to now is the categories that are below that. So the pillars. So we've got get moving, get nourished, get mindful, get low tox, get less, and get connected. And what I want you to think up the top of your printable, if you have it there, or I can just explain it. I want you to imagine a bike, and then in the wheels of the bike are these words. So get low tox, get connected, get nourished, get moving, etc. Because I feel like as we get these pillars clear in our life and we start building into them in like healthy ways, we're actually strengthening the wheel of that bike. And later when I talk about, our joy-filled life can be down the hill. We're at the top of the hill. We look down at our bike, and if it's got one spoke, you start to think, oh, how confident do I feel in rolling down the hill to this joy-filled life? Is my wheel going to bend and buckle? Am I going to have an accident? And so we don't feel brave to go from, the joy-filled life that is in our hearts, that is there because that's what we're made to be living out. But we can sometimes stay at the top of the hill in fear, living in the overwhelm and all the other things, rather than being able to coast safely down because we've got these pillars being built in and strengthening our journey there. And so as we go through, and I'm just going to give a little snapshot. So I run a thing called the Lighten Your Load framework, and that is gently rolled out over 12 weeks. And we spend 1 week on each one of these modules. So it's very hard in an hour giving each one a lot of depth, but I'm going to, in a nutshell, I'm going to explain it to you. And I'd love you to give it a score out of 10. So the first one, and even though it's partway down your page, I want to go all the way down to get less. And I always start with get less because I feel that it is a catalyst of change. I feel that when you are able to get less, and the main categories I always look at are books, toys, clothes, and storage. So when we look at those 4 areas and we get less of them, when we don't always walk around going, there's a pile of papers there, or oh, my clothes are billowing out of my wardrobe, or the kids' drawers, every time I open them, they're all messy, or the toy room looks crazy. For me, I've always had their toys in our living space, and so it's always made me be very minimal because I'm like, one, I have to see it all the time, so I don't want it to look sort of garish or like plastic. So like I'm very mindful about, like, because it's there and I'm seeing it, I want it to look and feel a certain way. And yeah, so looking at all of those areas, and when we get less of them, we're able to have the headspace to nourish ourselves better, have time to move. We're able to connect because we're not always like, shuffling and moving the mess around. We're able to actually be still and connect with those we love because we have the capacity, because our minds are not overwhelmed with all the things that we look around or even subconsciously feel like that we need to be doing. And so what I'd love you to do is give yourself a score out of 10. 0 being 0 and 1, like, being, oh, I just look around and there's always something that I need to tackle. Everywhere I walk, I see a job that needs doing. To 10, everything has a home and a place where it lives. And I feel like when I come home from an outing, I can just pop things away. I can also, my kids are starting to help me do that because I've got a place for things. So I can go, hey, can you put that where that goes? And they see it there often enough that they know where that is. So where on this spectrum, if you gave yourself a score out of 10, would you put that one for get less? I won't ask you to put these in the chat. I think you can just keep these for your own reference. I'm just going to share Estelle's beautiful words. So they're capacity building, loving, honor. I love it. Beautiful, so powerful. So when we're moving on now from get less, and remember, when we tackle that area first, rarely is it, unless it's something that you do beautifully, I think always doing it first is wonderful. And one of the challenges that I always like to do, and I do it once a year with the Mucho Mama community, and that is the wandering direction challenge. I'll explain it briefly and you're welcome to go ahead and do it. So I just get a piece of paper, write every room in the house, and I walk around with like, a little bit of a notepad and a pen and paper in my hand. And I just, walk to the entry and I'll just list everything, small or big tasks. It might be hang that picture needs hanging. Those need to find a home for them. They're just always sitting there. And I just write everything that needs doing. Doesn't matter how small or big the job is. And then I just pop it on the fridge. Believe it or not, I don't even look at it that often. Sometimes if I have a bit of time, I'll have a look and be like, oh yeah, I could actually do that job now. But often I won't, but it just seems to be, having recorded it like that, seems to make it happen. And somehow these things happen at the end of each year. Usually 80% of my list is completed. And I'm like, wow, it's so good. But it also takes the mental load off you of having to always see it. You're like, oh, I've got on my list, I will get to it. And so when you see it, it doesn't feel as heavy as well. But it's really, really helpful doing that. And then you can just work through things when you have the time, but you don't feel, yeah, it just takes the stress out of seeing it. You're like, no, no, it's on my list, I'm going to get to it. So it's really helpful lightening your mental load. The next one is get moving. So we'll go to the top of your list if you've got the printable. And I like to always think about movement in regards to how longevity. So I always use the term movement, not exercise, because in the longevity cultures where the majority of people live to 100 or older, only one out of the blue zone or the longevity cultures actually focus on exercise. So going and doing weight training or that sort of thing. That's Loma Linda. The rest of them build and see movement as a choice, not a chore. So they will, live and they might have a 5 kilometer walk down to get their groceries from the little store. And it might be like really steep undulating. So they're getting a lot of movement in like that. They might be gardening, dancing at an Icarian festival, but they build movement in and they just see it as a joy to do. And I know Marcus Pierce takes people to Ikaria each year. And he's like got this video of this 70-year-old guy at an Icarian festival, just having the best time. His movement is, like beautiful and free. And he's, just living life to the full. And it was always inspiring to me to realize movement is a choice. It's not a chore. And when we see it like that, we want to welcome movement in. We don't feel like we are punishing ourselves to do it. And, as you get older, I know last year in September, I injured my knee and I got a bit of a taste of what aging without movement would feel like. And it was really, really sort of encouraging me to go, right, you get that mobility and make sure you really embrace it because it was so discouraging. Like it really, really impacted my mental health more than anything. Yeah, so I totally think it's really important to embrace movement. And I always say, if you don't like movement, then think about like finding something that moves you, because there will be a type of movement. I keep trying because I think you just haven't found what moves you yet. It might be like, doing adult ballet, like a bar class, or you might go and like learn to dance with your husband, or, there will be a type of movement out there that you love. I know I've always loved swimming and I've really let that go in the last 4 years. And I want to welcome that back in. So like when I'm thinking about moving, I'm like, oh, I need to like really factor in swimming back into my life because I know how much joy it brings me. And yeah, so if you want to give your score out of 10, so 0 being you don't feel like you like movement, 0 to 1, that sort of thing. You don't like movement, or even if you do like movement, you just don't feel like you have capacity to move your body. I know, Renee, I've been seeing you train for, is it a marathon or a half marathon?
No, it's only half. Only
Okay.
half.
I was blown away with anything with the word marathon, and it's a workout.
1 week to go. It's next Sunday.
So good, so good, so inspiring. Honestly, I'm like, when I couldn't walk for, I was like, oh, she's running. I love it. And so yeah, like just you've got 0 where you either don't have time to, you don't feel like you have time to build movement in, or you don't like movement, and then 10, you're moving frequently as often as you like, and you're feeling good, and you feel like you have the energy reserve because of your movement to do everything you need. You're not feeling like exhausted. You have just the amount of energy to do everything you need in your day with energy. And you're not feeling like you walk up sometimes I walk up the stairs to school, I'm like, oh, I need to train a little more. So think about in your day how movement feels to you, and do you feel that is in balance with how often you're able to move your body? The next one is get nourished. So with get nourished, I always love reclaiming nourishing your body. I love the Ayurvedic approach to eating, like meaning that we eat slowly and we prepare food as slowly as we can. And we eat together as frequently as possible. And eating the rainbow and getting it from like paddock to plate, or, your like little pots on your outdoor area to your plate as quickly as you can. So all of those things I really love in regards to like thinking about nourishing your body. So when you go through and put your like number out of like 10, I'd love you to think, how often are you eating together? Do you feel like there is a time in your week to prepare and enjoy food slowly? It doesn't have to be every day. We are sometimes like juggling and have a lot on, but is there, at least once a week where you are able to feel like you can prepare food slowly and enjoy it with your family or loved ones in a slower pace? And do you feel like you're able to be inspired to cook? Does cooking feel like an exhausting task or something that you find joy in? Because sometimes when we're so busy that cooking becomes like insignificant, that can really impact how we feel overall, because we often then don't nourish ourselves beautifully. We sort of just tick the box of eating and don't get that done in the way that really nurtures us and nourishes us. The Ayurvedic approach is all about life force. So when we prepare food slowly, there's like an energy that's given to us even in the preparation that's really amazing for us. And then when we consume it and it's been like not picked along before, that gives a lot more energy and life force. So I love thinking about it like that. So if you want to give yourself a score for get nourished. Now I'm going to jump all the way down to below get less. And the next category is get connected. And the reason why I like to talk about these because there's a little story I want to share with you, and they really link the get nourished and the get connected part together. So this story is about the Roseto people who they lived in Italy, in Roseto, and then they moved, a big portion of them moved to Pennsylvania in the US, and they also called their town Roseto. So it's in Roseto, Pennsylvania. And there was a doctor who was sort of in a short distance between Roseto, Pennsylvania, and then another more traditional American town. And it was in when heart attacks and that sort of heart disease was just, becoming an issue. And, people were dying significant, portions in the rest of America. But what he found is that these people from Roseto were coming in, they had the same issues. They were overweight, like they had obesity issues. They were had all the markers that they should be dying at the same rate as this other town, but they just weren't. And it was, so significant that he's like, hey, and he called in a sociologist to go, let's try to understand why this is the case. Now, you might be thinking, oh, like maybe they had their Mediterranean diet, but it wasn't. They were literally eating the same things. They went and studied them. They did surveys. They were eating all the same types of fast food because it just come in, all this type of thing. So they were eating all this type of thing. They weren't moving their bodies. And so they had all of the same choices, like life choices, but they just were not dying at the same rate. And so the sociologist and him went and actually lived in this community. They're like, we've got to understand this. The only thing that they could note was that despite making the poor food choices, they did it in community. So they were eating like fast food, terrible food, but they did it together. They often still lived in multi-generational families. And so all of those things were buoying them and protecting them despite eating the same things. They were protected in some way because of the connection that they had. And that always just blows my mind. So I always have a little motto. I'm like, it's better to eat fish and chips at the beach with friends than a salad at home by yourself. So, keeping it in balance, like, yes, we want to nourish ourselves, but we want to make sure, that we're not so focused on like eating a certain way that we miss out on the protection of, breaking bread together and everything that comes along with that. So when you are looking at Get Connected, I'd love you to think of, do you feel like you have, time to break bread with people, and do you eat in communion enough? I know that I need to be a lot more intentional, especially, so I'm teaching senior psychology and senior biology at the moment. And I feel like my days are so busy that I literally just eat in my classroom by myself. And I'm like, I need to get more intentional and go down to the staff room and be more communal in my consumption of food. And I try to do that better. Like I love, enjoying food with my little girl and my days off, and we love eating dinner together. But yeah, I feel like sometimes we sort of think, I can just eat this quickly while I do this, but there's a nourishment in breaking bread with other people. And so I like keeping that in mind. So when you're looking at your Get Connected, do you feel like you have time? There's that element of eating and connection, but there's also, how do friendships feel? So do you feel that you have people that nourish and nurture your soul in your life frequently enough? And also, what inner work practices are you doing that are allow people to be drawn into your life? Because life can be hard sometimes, and we can be people are complicated. So what inner practices are allowing you to do the beautiful healing and growth so that you draw the right people towards you? If you're looking at your life and you're like, I seem to just not be able to draw people, often it's because we haven't been, life's been setting us the lessons, and we have been explaining them in some other way and not learning them, and therefore we aren't having the change we need to draw the right people that would nourish and nurture us. So yeah, looking at those things. So how do friendships feel, and do you draw people towards you, and how often do you have time to connect and commune, especially around the table in regards to that one? So give yourself a score out of 10. And the second last one is get mindful. So get mindful, what rituals and rhythms do you have in your life that allow you to be have self-care for yourself, but also for your family, that like, yes, I've got things in place that they are able to come and talk to me. Like, there's space in my life that my kids know that when there's something that's going on, whether it's a bedtime routine, and so the way that you put your kids to bed, that there's a time to talk about things if things have been difficult in their day. So looking in regards to mindfulness, it's about yourself and how much self-care you have built in, and also how much time and space you have available to support and nurture your family. Now, if I look back to the words that I used, busy, too much, and purpose filled. So the purpose filled is obviously the positive part of how my life is feeling. But in regards to the busy and too much, I can see immediately that the lowest score in my 6 pillars is going to be mindfulness. Like, I'm not having enough mindful practices so that's why I'm feeling that way. If I can change that and get more mindfulness for myself and more mindfulness happening for my family, then I know that will start to flip and feel different. And that's where I'm saying, like, your words that you've popped in at the start, they will, as well as your scores, often they'll correlate. So the score that you have the lowest is the area you probably want to make change in first, and it will also be probably 9 times out of 10 it will be related to very much to the words that you've struggled with, which is always interesting. So if you want to give yourself a score out of 10 for get mindful, just thinking, how often do you have time to do things you love, and how often do you have time to go slowly? So they're the main things to think about. How often do you have time to do things that you love, that are really, really fun, whether it be reading a book, like if you love reading, or like painting, like if you're a creative person, then do you have time to do that? So how often do you have time for things you love, and how often do you feel like you're able to go slowly? And I can see, for me, I'm like, the slowly, like I need to sort of build in and like prioritize like a patch to go slowly, so that it's protected. And I'm like, no, this is my slow time. And if people, go, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm actually busy, but my busyness will be literally just being slow and still, because I know that is what I need. So yeah, give your score for get mindful. And the last one is get low tox. And this is the booklet for the Light New Load framework. And for each category, it has like little pictures and things that go along with it. But this one, I wanted to read the heading for get low tox, because it's something that it has not been around for that long. And so I just wanted to read this part to you. So, as we have moved towards a more consumer driven and throwaway society, the prevalence of products consumed where the ingredient list contains harmful chemicals is just skyrocketing over time because people want to, have it cheaper and and usable, and there's not as much people aren't, because it's not your local person making it, it's it's being imported. Sometimes we're getting products that we're not they're being promoted and like greenwashed, but they're not what we're purchasing things that are not what we think they are, and they can often be laden with a lot of like a high toxic load. I know the beautiful there's a lady from One to Nourish Me. She was talking even about, at the moment there's a particular brand of like those little sheet dishwashers, and she's like, I looked into them, and she said, she was so sad because there was some really, really harmful things in those, but they're being promoted as green. And she's like, they're just not. So there is beautiful versions, like Kin can do an incredible dishwasher. But there's things, and they're being like, if you don't look into them and look at the ingredients and understand them like she does, I certainly don't understand them like she does. You would just think, yeah, these are perfect, and they do a great job, but they are also putting a really high toxic load, and that's what people are trying to avoid. So it's really, you have to be so careful. And I love going to people that I really trust and just taking their recommendations, because I don't have time to look into every label. But yeah, like if I know someone's a real expert on it and they speak over that and I trust them, when they make a recommendation, I'm like, oh yay, something that I can like welcome into my family as well. Over time, we saw the impact of high toxic load on our health and the environment, and the term low tox was coined by the inspirational Alex Stewart from Low Tox Living. Since then, it's become a mainstream term to describe making changes towards a lifestyle with minimal toxic load. So for this one, I want you to just think through and think about, the things you're washing your clothes with, things that you're putting into your dishwasher, skincare, whether it be for your face or your body, and the things you're washing your hair with. So looking at your toxic load and thinking, yeah, no, I'm really happy with the choices that I'm making in those areas, and give yourself a score out of 10 for that one as well. Now I spoke, you can then add those up and give yourself a score out of 16. Now there is no right score, like, oh, did I pass? It's not like a pass, fail mark. It's just like a starting point. It's a starting point of knowing where you're starting and where you're wanting to move towards. And I spoke earlier about, the concept of being at the top of a hill on a bike, and the joy-filled life that you were created for, and that is in your heart. It's not there just by chance. It's there because that's what you're created to be living out, and we want to move towards that. Life will feel wonderful when we move towards the life we were created for. So I want to just let you have a moment and look at your starting point, know that the life that you were created for is down the hill, and just start to think, looking at the score you have out of 60 and looking at all these individual values, that they represent the spokes that you have in that particular pillar on your bike. So if you had, 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 for Get Less, then you have lots of spokes in the area. So you're not walking around your home overwhelmed. You're going, yep, I've got places, things feel beautiful and calm, and your home is a haven, and that's nurturing and nourishing yourself in a certain capacity. And then you might have mindfulness, where you just feel like you're so busy, you don't have time to go slowly. You might have a 2 in that area. So you're like, I've only got 1 spoke, or there's, minimal spokes for that area on my bike. What we want to do is, as we move towards our joy-filled life, we have a beautiful balance of spokes in every pillar. Knowing our starting point, it might be 32, or it might be 45, or it might be 21, it might be, 8. Doesn't really matter what. There's no right and wrong answer, and I won't get you to share those as well. This is for your knowledge, so that you can know your starting point and know the direction that you want to increase the spokes. Now, when we do the Lightning Load framework, we go through each of these beautiful pillars, and we do it for a whole week. And we set goals. What I want to do with you, because I really wanted anybody who's able to come and hear this to get a lot of breakthrough. And you can do this same approach. We're going to just look at one pillar, but you can do this for all of the pillars. So you could look at, we might look at get nourished, but you might go, oh, I can use this same approach for every single pillar, and I can take action on it, and I can get those spokes on my bike, and I can know that I'm going to be rolling confidently towards the joy-filled life I was created for. So you can go ahead and do this. Like yourself, this is a beautiful process. We're going to do it with one of your pillars, and then but you're welcome to go ahead and do it with the other pillars as well. So for me, get mindful would be definitely, and I want you to look back at your words and see, is the lowest score in your pillars, is the lowest value, does it link with the words that you're saying? It's highly likely that it will. So for me, I would definitely be like, oh, get mindful feels. I'm really intentional about mindfulness. So I'd still have it as a 6 because I just like, it's one of the things that I really love and I usually do well, but I can see that I've let that slip in the busyness of, entering back into teaching and my little girl starting at kindy and like, the kids having lots of sport. I just feel like I have not protected that. And the thing that I always love to, mums, we love this concept of we're juggling. And I heard someone explain it in this way and it's always stood with me. Like we're always juggling and that's perfect. What we need to realize is that some of the balls are glass, some of the balls can bounce or they can just sit and we can pick them back up and they're fine. So what you need to realize is in this, when you are juggling things, you need to know which are the glass balls, which are the ones that are going to be nurturing and nourishing you, because when they drop, they shatter. And that's when we feel overwhelmed, too much, and all of the heaviness of motherhood. So when we are juggling those glass balls, because we know how important they are for us and our family and people in our life, then we are able to avoid that shattering and the feelings of too much or too heavy. So whenever you're feeling that things are out of balance, it's often because one of the glass balls you haven't prioritized and been intentional about. And so it's dropped and shattered and you're feeling the effects of that. So thinking about that beautiful and those two analogies of the bike rolling down the hill and then thinking about, what are your glass balls? What are you getting intentional about? They're so important. So looking at your score, so for me, I'd definitely choose get mindful. And I'd be looking at, I could say, oh, I want to be more mindful in my day, but I can't tick that off. And so you always want to transfer your intention into something that is actionable. You can take action, and the end of the week, you could give it a tick or a cross, like, no, it didn't happen. Yes, it did happen. When you take something from like an intention, I want to be more mindful, to something you can take action on and can be ticked off or crossed, there lies the beauty of making sure that you can build it into your like daily, weekly, or your life. So I want you to have a look through which category you would be focusing on. If you've got sort of 2, you might look at your words and go, oh, that one links to that. So that's probably what's feeling heaviest to me. I will focus on that. And so I've talked through, like with mine, if I want to get intentional, I might say I'm going to make sure that I block out, like for me, it's always doing the Burley Headland walk. And I feel like all this rain has been really difficult. It's probably, sometimes there can be like seasonal things that you can't change. But I know that when I do that walk, I just feel so restored. I feel like it's the nature. I think it's the microbiome that you're breathing in as well. I feel like there's so much restoration that happens. And I have a little local walk now that I love to be able to do, so I can, not take as much a block of time, but, nothing blesses me as much as doing that particular walk. And so I want you to have a look at yours. So I would be like, walk Burley Headland, but also have half an hour on a day when it's just me. I'd want to block out half an hour just to be still at the end, because often I'll do that really well and still is there with me, like watch her play and enjoy the water. But I often don't do it. I just sort of keep walking and like get back into all my jobs. So I want to actually be still and slow for half an hour and just let my mind like not have to rush into the next task. So yeah, be mindful. And I can tick that off at the end of the week. Like, did I not rush home? Did I do the walk? And then did I just take that stillness for 30 minutes? And I can tick it or I can cross it whether it did or didn't happen. So if you want to go through and look at your lowest value, or if the words really, lean you towards one particular area that you're like, I think this is the area I need to focus on. Would anyone be brave enough to take themselves off mute and share that, and we can like talk through? So I could do that with if someone feels like this is my area, how can I turn it into being actionable? I would love to help someone with that. If there's anyone, would anyone feel brave or bold to share which category they're wanting to focus on?
I can go if no one else wants to.
Yeah, we might even have time for two or three. Yeah. So which area do you feel?
Well, the thing that, like, my lowest score is actually the get less because my garage, after 2 years of moving into my house, we still can't walk through it. But it's kind of out of my control. So what's in my control is all good in the house. I've got on top of that, except my linen cupboard. But so the thing that really struck me about what you were saying is the slow going slowly, like the eating slowly and cooking slowly, like to carve out some time in the week to do that because for me it's definitely a multitasking situation
Yes.
and not making that whole family event.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also because I eat differently to the kids and so I'm always making my own food and having a different schedule to them and just not having that joy around preparing food anymore because there's always just so many other things to do.
Yes, yeah. So how could you you always want to make sure that it's going to be a blessing when you add it in. So
Mm.
how often do you think you could do that? Like, do you think it's once a week you like intentionally try to make sure that your meal matches them as much as possible? Like even it looks similar, even if it's a different like type, but it looks as similar as possible, and that you allow yourself to prepare it with like ease and slowness. Like, is it realistic that you could do that once a week, or is it something
Yeah.
like, oh, I could actually do it twice a
I,
week?
I think that I should make a day on a weekend
Yeah,
to have like a family, like and eat outdoors and like make it a
an experience.
yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah.
love it. Okay, so yeah, so weekend, so once a week on a weekend, you're going to like eat in community with your family, even if what you're doing is a little bit modified.
Yeah, and I would like to kind of introduce them to a little bit more of the way I'm eating on in that meal, like do Asian rice paper rolls or something like
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. At the moment, I've been trying to do a lot of hormonal balance sort of type stuff. And so my meals have been a little bit different. And I feel like it's a funny thing. Often I'll be making it and they'll be wanting to then eat my meal. I'm like, if I made this for dinner, no one would eat it.
I know.
Um,
But you know what they say to me? They say it's only good when I'm stealing it from you.
exactly. So you just make like a massive portion for you.
That's what I do.
Like,
I do actually.
yeah.
I make a family size portion of my salad and then I'm happy to share it. So yeah, that's funny. Um,
So
yeah, okay. And then and once I do the once a week, then I think I can look at adding in a weekday that's a bit more special, like one that we're not just like rushing home from gymnastics or like, I don't know, there has to be one day a week
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, totally. So start with your weekend. And also, once they're enjoying that and you're enjoying it too, and you feel the beauty and the effects, then that will motivate you and like them to make that successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, have a goal of where you want to get to.
Yeah, and it just really struck me how you said, do you have enough space in your life for them to be able to come to you and know that you're there? Like that really struck me because often I'm just like, I'm on
Mm.
a Zoom call. I'm just like, I've already done it today. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
my
yeah.
son asked me for help. I'm like, no, sorry, I've got this one and I'm going here then after that. And like, but everything's settled. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's crazy. I remember Mel Robbins was speaking. I can't remember who was interviewing her. Some like amazing sort of psychologist type thing, and he was talking through something that she'd experienced that was really traumatic. The thing was traumatic, but what was he pointed out was more traumatic is that she couldn't go to anyone. So she was young. This traumatic thing
Mm.
like was experienced by her, but he said the real trauma was that you had no one to go to that you felt safe enough that they could protect you from that. And I was like, wow, like it just really spoke to me, like I need to have the space that my kids can come to me, and I have that space for them to talk to me. I don't want to be so busy. They're like, oh, I don't want to bother mum. She looks really like she's juggling a lot. I don't have that capacity to go to her. So that was really like, it was just last week I was like, okay, I need to make sure I got really, I was reminded how important it is to have that space so that if something was happening in their life that was not cool, they don't feel that I don't have time or capacity to handle it for them.
The other thing that I've been challenged by is to make car trips and stuff more connecting times, rather than like the kids will often read a book or they'll want to have a device or something, and especially if they're longer trips. So it's kind of like making those times family times as well.
Yeah. And it can be simple. Like I know the one day that I take Mabel to her acro class, it's just the two of us. And she has like we created it for her birthday, like a little Spotify playlist, like pool party playlist.
Yeah.
And she loves popping it on and we sing away. Like there's quite a few Dolly Parton songs. She likes some really cool music that we're very similar taste in music. So it's such a bonding thing. And she gets in the car and she's like, let's put our playlist on. And then Harry sneaks some songs and then we have to try skip because we're like, we don't want your crazy teen music on our playlist. So yeah, like it can be simple things that are even like what they love to do, but you're building yourself into it. Like you're entering into their world and going, well, I'm going to join in and like be a part of this. Um,
Cool.
Yay, thank you so
Yeah,
much, Estelle. I
great.
love that.
So
Is,
much.
is there anybody else who would like to just share which area they're wanting to focus on and like just chat through, like even if you just want to share with others so they might be like, yeah, I want to do that too. I love the way you have the action that you'll take on it.
I scored the lowest on low tox and get nourished. I really don't like cooking. I hate it actually. So my husband does all the cooking in our household, which I love, but it's not, I like the idea of the making more time to eat together. So I think I'll focus on that rather than the cooking because I really don't
Yeah.
like it.
If he's good at it, why would you take that beautiful skill from him?
He cooks, I clean. That's how it goes.
I love it.
So that works for us. So, but I think we could definitely do that more in our household.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
the low tox, I mean, I've never even really looked into that really. I do feel a bit overwhelmed by all of that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, when you come over to Australia soon, let's talk through it.
Yeah, I do remember you trying to get me into it years ago with the cloths.
Yeah,
and I still have the cloths, to be honest. I still love them. I still do use them.
I love it.
But yeah, obviously I have all the chemicals in all of the products. So, but maybe that's something I could look into.
Awesome. So there are your two areas. So let's focus on the get nourished. So how often do you feel would be possible for you guys to eat together? Like thinking about, the boys, I know your boys both play soccer, like football.
Yeah.
And so what's the reality? Could you twice a week eat like in communion around the table or community around the table?
Yeah, we do. It's like the weekends are more
Oh,
Sunday, we always have Sunday roast. So that we do that every week.
yeah.
And then there is a couple of times that we sort of do during the week as well. So I think maybe just making that a little bit more structured. So maybe like Monday nights or Tuesday nights. But yeah, there is a lot of clubs going on. So it doesn't always happen. But yeah, maybe more than twice a week perhaps to start with, maybe.
Yeah, make it like I always love making it super sustainable, because if it becomes a burden to you or your family, it's easy just to go, that's not worth it. So yeah, it's better to make it once a week even, and to start to enjoy it, and then go, oh, like we love it so much, let's try to do it on a Wednesday night too, because that seems to be like we're all home and whatever. So yeah, like don't do too much. Like don't be like, when often we do it with the movement, we're like, we want to get fit. I'm going to run 10Ks this Sunday. And then you're like, my legs can't move. I can't, and you can't do anything the rest of the week, or, so be really sustainable in your approach. Like once a week is better than no time a week. And then when it's a joy, then you're like, let's add it another day. That's so lovely. I can see the benefit. We feel more connected. Let's try to do it like on a different night as well. But yeah, make it super sustainable. So yeah, once a week, I'm gonna eat through the week as well as the beautiful feast you enjoy on the weekend. Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. Is there anyone else? We'll do one more if people feel if people feel they want to talk through it.
Names. One of my lowest scores was the low tox as well, although I have made a start of beautiful Norwex cloths and products as well for many years now, which are beautiful. And also about 2 years ago, I was gifted for Christmas a set of the Skipper hand soap refill tablets, so beautiful glass bottles with the soap tablets that are dissolved in water, and they're really lovely. So I use those now in the kitchen and bathroom. And I've also got onto the clothes washing sheets, soap sheets, and the dishwasher tablets, and they seem to work really well. And Australian low tox products, so they're really beautiful.
So good. I love that.
I think being gifted that was a real gift.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's something we can do for others as well, to introduce those sorts of products into our friends and families' homes.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's a great idea. Like whenever you're gifting, if that's something that you're doing well, then yeah, gift on those things that they know. Gives you something and you're like, this has changed my life and I didn't even know I needed it.
So thoughtful. Yeah.
Love it.
I agree.
Love it. So good. So we now have our clarity. We also now have the strategy. Kaylee, did you want to talk through anything, or you're good? Like thumbs up if you're just, or if you want to talk through.
Probably my first one would be, like my worst one, I mean, would be the mess in the house. What's that one? Get less.
Yeah, minimalism, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I designed my house with no storage. Trying to have beautiful old cupboards. That would be the storage. But yeah, I now have 2 more people living here, and it's just hard to find places for everything. And
yes, yeah, definitely try start with the wandering direction. I'll try even send it through to you so you can read it.
Yeah,
just wandering around your house and getting like clarity on what you need to do in each area, that will be a beautiful start. And that's something that's totally, you can do that within 5 minutes. Like you can walk around most of your home and list things within 5 minutes. And then you can just start slowly working through that when you have time. I know you're really super busy with your amazing photography business. But yeah, so definitely I think wandering direction would be an incredible place to start.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that I love to say in regards to minimalism and getting less is whenever you're going through a category, so say if you're doing, like linen, or you're doing the kids' toys, make sure you get the kids' toys from their room, your room, the living room, like get every kid, say, soft toy or every kid's book. Make sure they're all there. And I love dividing it into the keep and donate, but I also have another category which I think is like a bit of genius, and that is called the halfway storage. And so what I do is I go keep, donate, and then I have this halfway. I do it with my clothes, I do it with anything that I'm sorting through, because sometimes it's really hard in that moment to release things. You're like, it's special or blah, blah, blah. But if you put that into the halfway category, in 6 months' time, I get that out. And sometimes you think, oh, actually, what, in 6 months, I haven't missed it. I haven't needed it. I can feel the lightness from not having it. I feel the benefit. And then that's the motivation you need to release it, but you couldn't have done it back here. So I feel like that halfway place is such a good way to approach like minimalism and culling things. So have this halfway place and then come back. With my clothes, my rule is if in 6 months I haven't gone and taken it out of the storage area and put it back in my wardrobe because I've wanted to wear it, I make sure I sell, donate, or like I don't even let myself bring it back in, because I'm like, nope, I haven't needed it and I haven't wanted it, unless it's a really seasonal, like I don't throw out my my wedding dress or anything. Like, you know, I'm not gonna wear that again, but I'm keeping it. Yeah, so like, you know, like you would expect yourself to wear in, as long as you've gone through the season that you might have needed it, then I just be like, let's let this go. Because I also, when you're getting the clothes out or you're using the toys, you're like, this feels so much better. And that's the motivation. Sometimes you need to release those things, but it's hard to do that early on. So yeah, I'd definitely say try have those 3 piles. And then do the wandering direction. Those 2 things will be amazing for feeling different in that area.
Yeah, and the other one would be cooking too. I don't like cooking either.
Even once a week, if you sort of focus on once a week, I'm gonna like cook something that you enjoy. I love having actually something that we do in the Lighten Your Load framework is in regards to nourishment is we create like a little, I think it's way better than meal planning. I'm not a meal planner, but I love choosing the like going grocery shopping, and then I come back and I write the dishes that I could make with those ingredients. I'd be like, I could make khichdi, I can make pasta mezzani, I can make you know, like pasta chicha, I can make all these things. Like I list them all down, and then on the day when I'm like, oh, I just don't have time, I have nothing to cook, like I can't, nothing in the cupboard, then I look through that list and I'm like, oh, I have 20 minutes. That is possible to make the tamari fried rice and the dumplings and edamame. Like I actually can do that. And I know I have them because I've listed it here, like on my list. And so then I choose that one. So I don't like allocating on Monday night, I'm going to cook this, because the likelihood is Monday night something gets thrown, a spanner in the works. And I thought I had an hour to make dinner and I have 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, that feels stressful, I want to do takeaway or whatever. Because takeaway is not frequently in our budget, then I have to be cooking at home, and so I need to like have lots of options that I'm like, I know I have the ingredients, that is the most time efficient one that I can make, I'm going to choose that. So yeah, throw away meal planning and allocating what you're going to cook on what night, but definitely try have your go-to meals that you're like, you know, the family all like to eat and no one's going to complain about too much, and then have them all listed, and then have the ingredients for those in the cupboard. And then on that day, and I also, the other trick is I love cooking dinner in the morning. So I like, if I'm at home, I will often have dinner like sort of mostly made. Like I might have the sausage roll mix and then I'll just have to pop it in, or I will cut up the veggies and just have them in there. So I'm just chucking them in the steamer. I do as much of it as I can in the morning, so that come that night, it's a much speedier process. And that seems to be really helpful as well. So hope some of those things might be awesome. Now I know that we are right on 9 o'clock. So the last thing that I want to share with you before I send you your way, because and so the last thing that I want you to do is just take 1 minute to write down what your life would feel like if it was joy filled. So I've got some little things listed there at the end of your printable if you have it, but if not, I'm going to read them out. The things you might want to think about is, you know, what does dinner time feel like? Or look like? What does bedtime feel and look like? Do you feel at peace in the surroundings of your home? Is your home organized and do you feel on top of things? When you catch up with friends, what is your kids' behavior like? How do you feel about yourself? How are your energy levels each day? Do you feel that you're nourishing yourself well when you eat? How do you feel after meals? Do you speak kindly to yourself? Do you speak kindly to others? Do you make time to connect with those who nurture who you are and make your soul come alive? What do your relationships and friendships feel like? Are they deep, honest, and satisfying? So thinking about those categories, and they're also, you know, very similar to the 6 pillars that we have, you know, how do those not just feel like now, but how would you, if you were living, so not what you're currently experiencing, we've already done that when we've given our 3 words. This is like, if you were living like the perfect joy-filled life, what would those things feel like? You know, would your, you know, would you like have your husband for, you know, like would your husband prepare a beautiful meal and you get to enjoy it around the table together, like, you know, laughing and everyone being kind, or, you know, like, so it's not what you're currently experiencing, it's what you would have things feel like. So jot that down, and don't just try stay not just in like your headspace, but like try lean into your heart when you're writing these down, because already in your heart is what this joy-filled life should be. And so you're just like really spilling that out onto paper so that you can then take time to receive it. So yeah, I'll just give you a minute to do that as the one of the last things before we go. As you come back from doing that, you're always welcome to keep adding that in. I love to create from that. You can either do a physical little, you could put some pictures and some quotes, like somewhere physically, like on your bathroom window or somewhere. I always love to have it as my background in my phone. So I have to just jump on Canva and there's my little, like, sort of, I guess, vision board, or like I capture what I write down as my joy-filled life. But with that, what I do is I have a little morning stretching routine that I do. It's a super short. And when the very last move is where you just lie on your back. And so what I do is I just take time to breathe and receive those things in. Like, I know that they're placed in my heart because I'm created to live that life out. And so I take time to receive them and send them out. And doing that just allows me to, like, there's sometimes people just do this part and they haven't even been able to do a lot with the taking action. And they feel such change in their life just by taking time to actively receive this life that you're created for regularly into your day. So just taking time, if we can do it daily, wonderful. The reality is you might be able to do it twice a week or 3 times a week, and always needs to be sustainable. So if it's not a blessing to you, then don't add it in more than you can. But wherever you can, I love habit stacking. So stacking it to something that I already do. So when you're making the school lunches, you might take the time to do this because you have to do that anyway. Or when you're having your morning shower, like, just taking that time to breathe and actively receive these things in, and, allow yourself to visualize, this is the life that I'm moving towards. The beauty in that is that it gives you strength. Having the taking action things scheduled into your week that you can tick off or cross, as well as receiving this beautiful joy-filled life frequently. The beauty in both of those things is that when you're in a moment where it's heavy, it doesn't, like you're hitting something that, this is why I feel overwhelmed, or this is why I'm feeling like life's too much. When you come up against those moments, this is where the strength of having the taking action, scheduled into your week, or this beautiful joy-filled life that you're frequently receiving, that's where the strength comes. Because rather than going, oh, I don't like this, it's not, this is not the way I envisaged motherhood to feel or my life to feel. Instead, you go, I've got things in place that it's not going to feel like this in 6 days, 6 weeks, or 6 months. And that's where the strength comes from. So you can go, it feels like this now, so I can just like be exactly what my child needs in this moment, or I can, be exactly what I need in this moment, depending on what the scenario is. And I don't have to feel overwhelmed because it's not going to be like that soon. I have things in place. I'm moving towards this beautiful life, and I've got things, I've got the taking action things scheduled in so that the change will be gently happening. Yeah, so I love remembering both of those things. Like the taking action is super important, but so is receiving the joy-filled life that you were created for. So yeah, take some time to really get clear on that. Jump on Canva and like put some beautiful quotes or images in, and then visually, whenever you open your phone, you're looking at those and you can just go, oh, I'm going to just receive that one for the moment. And the next time, you might receive the next one, or you might, when you have that longer time before you jump in your shower, just have a look through and like, right, I'm going to receive all of those. I'm going to just breathe them in, like, and send them out as I have my 10 breaths, like consciously in my shower. And so, or making lunches, or for me, when I've done my stretches. So yeah, definitely think about welcoming in this joy-filled life into your day frequently. Know that you've got your taking action on the particular area that you wanted to make change in. And then you can just relax and know that when things don't feel the way you want them to or hoped they would, that you're like, no, I've got things in place. And if you don't think that the thing that's come up is the thing that you've got in place, then you can go like, but which one would it be? And how can I make that actionable? And where can I fit it in my week? So there's always a way to approach. And yeah, so that's what I love. I feel like there's so much benefit. And the Lighten Your Load framework was born out of, I think when I had 3 kids under 4, that was, where I was like, oh, it just feels so heavy and so much. That's where it came out of. But the framework served me when I then backed that up with 5 years of struggling through secondary and infertility. And I used the same framework. I rested into the same things. And then when we in 2020 worked through a really hard financial season in our family, and it was, so difficult, I leaned into the same approach where I was like, right, I know what to do when things are hard. I'm so grateful because I thought that, motherhood was like the part that was going to be really the most difficult. I didn't know what was ahead of me. So I'm so grateful I had this framework to support me. And that's what I love. It doesn't matter whether it's like, you're starting a new job, or maybe your children are leaving home, or whatever the catalyst of overwhelm is. And often it's mothers with young children that can be the catalyst to make us feel like, how do we get this balance? But whatever it season you're walking through, the framework serves you to get back on track and moving toward the joy-filled life you were created for. In finishing up, I want you to think about those 3 words that you chose at the start. How long has your life, your motherhood felt like this? You keep doing the same thing, in 5 weeks, in 5 months, in 5 years, will it feel the same? I really love the quote, old keys won't unlock new doors. If we keep doing the same thing, we can't expect different results. And so I want you to think, how do we move towards this joy-filled life? Well, it's by forming rhythms, rituals, and putting in new systems in place. When I guide people through the Lighten Your Load framework, it gently rolls out over 12 weeks. You need about 20 to 30 minutes a week. I've made it really sustainable for busy mamas because I'm one myself. And it's all about mapping out, you're capturing this beautiful, getting clarity around your joy-filled life, your individualized joy-filled life, and then mapping out a step-by-step plan to get there, to bring that vision to life. And please look out for a beautiful email inviting you to come if you feel like you would love support and you'd like community around you while you make that journey. I'd love you to be a part of that. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving of your time, and also acknowledge that you have taken this beautiful time for yourself to move towards something that is really significant and important for you. So thank you so much, beautiful mamas.